Ever so often in Star Trek The Next Generation, you will see Commander Riker sit down in a particular way.
The transfer has been completed. Dr. Pulaski's being shown to her quarters. We're ready to get underway.
0300.
It's a subtle move and one that's easy to miss, but when you really pay attention to it, you begin to notice it everywhere. But why exactly has it become such a staple of Star Trek The Next Generation, and more importantly, of the character Riker himself? This is the Lord of Culture. Here we discuss books, movies, video games, and so on. If you enjoy this type of content, feel free to like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's jump right in. Unlike other areas, in television it is usually the small things that really make a difference. Like the great Gandalf said, I have found it is the small things, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep darkness at bay. The darkness in this case being boring characters. A small nuance can differentiate a boring, bland character that was just written in to fill a role from a truly unique character that brings something of their own into the story they play. Now, I'm not saying that Commander Riker was only interesting because of the way he sat down, not at all. I'm simply taking a deeper dive into a usually overlooked part of character building and portrayal. I would be lying if I said that the Riker Maneuver was added by the writers. In fact, it was simply a thing Jonathan Frakes, the actor who played Riker, did to avoid his back pain. The Star Trek uniforms and the uniquely shaped chairs made it much more inconvenient for Frakes to sit down regularly, and that's why he adopted his rather interesting way of sitting down for a cup of tea. In fact, he thought it was in poor taste, that it was gimmicky, like a bad cowboy move, and he was surprised when nobody really opposed him from doing it. That just shows how a little versatility from the directors can make a difference. While it may seem like just a gimmick, this is how an actor can bring a certain amount of realism and depth into a character in the most natural way possible. It's also something that Patrick Stewart did when he gave his character, Jean-Luc Picard, a truly natural and rich personality beyond what the writers had intended. Examples of this would be how Picard was originally going to have a full head of hair, but Stewart decided against it, or when Gene Roddenberry, the guy who made Star Trek, wanted Picard to be much more distinctly a Frenchman, with a French accent among other things, yet because of Patrick Stewart, it didn't happen. And don't worry, I'm not forgetting that Jean-Luc Picard has his own maneuver, which is done by pulling down and straightening the top of his uniform. In fact, these character quirks invented by the actors themselves is quite a common theme across the Star Trek franchise. For example, Spock's comical eyebrow raise, coined by Leonard Nimoy, or Captain Kirk's funny and potent way of speaking that was just something William Shatner did naturally. In Star Trek The Next Generation, Lieutenant Data also started tilting his head a little when thinking to really accent the fact that he was an android. These are the small yet significant ways in which an actor can bring a true kind of originality to a character, because after all, they are the character. Because when you play a character, you literally become them. So if anyone has any idea of how to make them more real, it will be the actors. So while Commander Riker was not necessarily defined by his maneuver, it added something great and unique to his character that made him much better. Speaking of maneuvers, it would be foolish of me not to mention that both of these characters have their own actual maneuvers involving actual spaceships. In Star Trek canon, the Riker maneuver is performed in Star Trek Insurrections, where a ship releases a lot of metron gas that is then ignited, hence destroying enemy vessels. And the Picard maneuver, however, is a more known one, and it involves going to warp for a brief period and an incredibly short distance that is still in range to essentially confuse enemy ships and gain a strategic advantage. Now, how does the Riker maneuver actually reflect and even improve on his already established personality? From what we see in the show, Riker is a very confident guy. He is never afraid of confrontations or stressful situations in general. He also never tries to do everything by himself. He is confident in his friends and colleagues, and most importantly, himself. So his character traits should have a confident affectation rather than an insecure one. This is why the Riker maneuver fits him perfectly. By sitting down in a unique way, he not only asserts his dominance, which I grant sounds cringy, but it is true. He also sets himself apart from the others, creating a distinction between him and those around him, without being obnoxious or insecure. In the show, we see a lot of insecure characters, most notably Lieutenant Reginald Barclay, who displays many insecurities and a lack of confidence in himself and those around him. So, if, say, Barclay started sitting down like Riker, it would not suit his character at all, and this conclusively proves that these type of quirks are usually character specific, and that they do, in a way, elevate or worsen the personality being portrayed. So, when Riker sits down at 10 forward or in the captain's office, we immediately, from that one action, get to understand who this character is, or at least get an impression. If you're still not convinced that the Riker maneuver is more than just a way of sitting down, just look at the impact it has done on media. I mean, we're talking about how one particular character sits down. It's nothing sensational per se, but somehow it has managed to garner a lot of attention, and that is exactly why I made this video. So, for example, there are a lot of threads online discussing why and how Riker sits down. This comical move is even referenced in some shows. One show in particular, called Ground Floor, has a very funny bit about this.
That's because while you were wasting time getting busy with girls, I was getting busy with Star Trek. Mr. Mansfield, I want to talk to you about that open office.
Fair enough. Have a seat. Always check your chair before you perform a Riker.
And on YouTube itself, there is a lot of fan content surrounding it. So that just kind of proves that such small, insignificant quirks, if done well, can really accelerate a character forward and give the show itself a unique touch. That's why, in my opinion, actors are a part of their character's soul, not just their face and voice. When I watched Star Trek, I didn't notice the Riker maneuver immediately, but when I did, I found myself noticing it everywhere. I would watch an episode and be like, aha, I saw that, which made the experience better. I think that, as I said before, movies, shows, and literally every other medium can really benefit from small nuances, fun little moments where something not crucial to the story is happening. This can vary a lot, from the way a character sits to a whole scene that we could have survived without that small detail. This can be seen in great shows like Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, where small details really make the show. In Breaking Bad, for example, I really enjoyed the little side story of Gail's coffee. It really brought the character a depth beyond just being that quirky scientist that produces meth. I also really loved the various times when Jesse referenced The Lord of the Rings. So it's small things like that that make a person come alive. And that's because it is usually how it is in real life. Humans are generally similar, but we each have our distinct quirks and interesting moments that separate us from the rest and make us uniquely human. That's why I made this video. I wanted to really explore how such a small detail can really humanize a character and perhaps even make them more relatable. That's what, in my opinion, separates good media and bad media. When producers and actors are adaptable and really have a passion for these things, they include these scenes and details that usually are an extension of what they like or what they need to do. If you enjoyed this video, let me know down in the comment section below. I would love to hear what you think about this topic, or maybe you have unanswered questions or suggestions. In any case, remember to like and subscribe. Live long and prosper.